Welcome to this Roundup. Connected computers, information, communication, and digitization technologies has connected individuals and entities across nations, its government, industries, organizations, and academia, in short referred to as NGIOA. The growing digital connectivity is creating an ever-increasing demand for information that is credible, transparent, verifiable, payable, and accessible. While social media is no longer ignored and individuals and entities across NGIOA are getting ready to benefit from the changing fundamentals of content creation and communication, the reality remains that managing content in cyberspace is much more complex than in geospace. To meet the complex challenges facing content creation and distribution, there are many ongoing efforts to the content distribution, monetization, verification, and aggregation process powered by blockchain and artificial intelligence. To discuss one such all-in-one social content aggregation, verification, and monetization platform that is powered by blockchain and machine learning, I am delighted to welcome Travis Garland to this Roundup. Travis is the CEO of DeepSee and is based in the United States. Welcome, Travis. We're honored to have you on this Roundup.
Hey, Jayshree, I appreciate it. And that was a heck of a wrap up for what we're doing and kind of where we're playing in some of the great issues. So tremendous. That was great.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So amidst the onslaught of information from countless sources from across nations, social media users are trying to get informed and involved for the causes that matter to them. While social media is becoming an integral part of almost everyone's life, there is a growing concern that the distribution of content continues to be controlled by a select few who controls the social media. What rules, regulations, guidelines, and moderation follows on social networks? And do you see that the technology will help in this content distribution and management?
Absolutely. So in regards to DeepSee, we have an all-in-one approach, and we encompass many different technologies and layer it in a fashion that involves the user. At the same time, it capitalizes on the technology and its benefits to try to create a solution that works for everybody. So within this, we use blockchain, machine learning, a lot of the buzzwords you'll hear today, and we also reinforce that with old methods of content aggregation, distribution, and verification. Today on the horizon, we're seeing a sharp change with blockchain technology, in addition to the use of micropayments and different ways to actually monetize your content or different ways to make money off of other people's content. At the same time, we've moved quickly past networks and TV programming, and more people now than ever are getting onto the internet in order to get their content. So what we're starting to see is a service environment, many service environments pop up at the same time, whether it be aggregation, marketing, or what have you, to get out this content. At the same time, we have blockchain popping up, the use of cryptocurrencies or just digital currencies in general that are going to create for a sharp change. So with the speed up that we are currently witnessing today, the sharp changes that we see in today's content aggregation, today's content distribution, that's obviously going to change. So some quick things that we can open up towards are how can we use machine learning and deep learning and all these new types of methodologies to better limit bots and spam, for instance, and how can we use technology such as blockchain to better take care of micropayments, reimburse multiple people within the supply chain, get the money out of very centralized sources, and then how can we blend the technology in a way that we are actually more connected than ever, because we're definitely experiencing it, especially within the recent years and after the election, we're definitely experiencing the abuse of this connectivity, the real volatile tactics that are being used against other people or in marketing and what have you to really get the leading edge. So as we find ways to combat these methods, it's really about how can we get connected in a way that's safe and that's also reasonable to discussion and intellect and what have you.
No, that's wonderful, and I'm glad that you are going on this path that is going to make so much difference. The integrity of social networks everywhere is challenged, and as they continue to be challenged, it's troubled by problems that are involving accessibility, censorship, quality, credibility, authenticity. Verifiability and much more, like you just said, after during the election and after the election, we have witnessed so many complex problems that have emerged. And as we witness the democratization of information and connectivity, there is a growing concern that the discovery, distribution, or democracy of content still remains a problem. If you look at the social media, irrespective of whether it is LinkedIn, Twitter, or Google Plus, Google, or Facebook, any other platform, social media platform that people use, irrespective of individuals or entities across NGIOs. So if we are talking about blockchain machine learning based platform, do you see that we will be able to overcome all the challenges that we currently face about accessibility, censorship, and all that on social media, that we will be able to manage them effectively?
Well, it's a combination of multiple technologies, and at the same time, anything we put our mind to, and people in general, I believe we can solve and come to new solutions. At the same time, anytime we solve a problem, we open up new problems because our awareness has changed and we're now focusing on different issues. I do believe with the advantages of verification and just being able to go through a lot of the legwork that we were normally never able to do. And this is really thanks to machine learning, but also because of blockchain from a verification and a monetization standpoint. The better we can get the verification, the monetary strategy, be able to get all these tools in the individual's hands and get them involved, I believe they'll be more involved in helping us come down and solve some of these issues. But at the same time, it's really going to take a lot of communication. This is really one of the first and best forms against violence is being able to get people to communicate and try to work out a deal and come to a discussion. And this is really what that technology is going to do. It's going to force a discussion. So people are going to have to weigh in one way or the other, and we can better predict and better establish ways to make everything kind of work together.
So you are looking for more of a collaborative, collective approach in the once you develop this base platform, you want to open it up so all these complex challenges or issues that are identified, that the global community then collectively, collaboratively, they can address those. And once they are aware of these challenges, and then collectively they can come with the solution. Is that the approach you are taking?
Exactly. So we can solve some of the really easy things or some of the really obvious things. So some obvious things that are going on in today's society that we want to stop are vote manipulation, botting, kind of growth hacking, growth marketing within social networks, or the abusive aspects of it. So using fake accounts, generating these accounts in order to increase a social media score on various forms of social media, and Reddit's really one of the most popular ones. This has caused seismic shifts, especially in elections and news, what have you. I mean, 62% of today's Americans get their news from social media, and I believe it's around 80% for millennials. So this is a big deal. And when people mess with the scores of this content using bots and using those methods, it gives people a really different perception, because on one hand, they think 1,000 people like this comment, or they weighed in with this comment, or what have you, and that's really not the case. So some of these easy issues we can solve. We can use reinforcement learning and different methodologies to pinpoint different weights and different aspects of a person's profile or a person's account, and be able to dictate whether they are manipulating voting patterns, whether they are using bots, or whether they are using upvoting groups in order to increase their content. At the same time, we can also put weights on other individuals. There are other individuals who may never bot, may have a type of profile where they're verified in a certain category, and we can at least broadcast that, to broadcast the symbols, if you will, and we can relay that information to other people. So that's what I talk about, a collective effort. There are some things we can do, but we know, and we also know that from an AI point of view, there should never be an artificial intelligence that really just weighs in whether a piece is true or not. We're not at the stage of NLP or thought from a human's point of view, for that matter. So we can't weigh in on whether a piece of news is fake or not. But we can establish the tools and establish the best platform possible for having that discussion and relaying all prevalent information and trying to really protect the integrity of the platform.
No, I think that is so necessary, because you are right that social networks are covered with these bots and fake profiles, and all these marketing agencies and people who have a lot of money power with them, they do nothing but for the platform other than inflating numbers and damaging the integrity of the content. We would not know if someone spends a lot of money and pushes some content which may not be right, as we see during the elections, and also time and time again in so many other areas. So I'm glad that you are working on that challenge, and I hope that organizations like yours are able to come up with some effective solution for that. But how will we be able to create a platform that doesn't marginalize the social media users based on the topic that they're working on, or they what their ideologies, or what their religion is, or what their some different perspectives they have, and based on their origin or preferences or religion or skin color? So how will we be able to create a platform that is blind to all these things and is just focused on the integrity of the content?
I'm glad you said that. So one real difference about our platform and DeepSee is that we do have hosting portals for video content, for text type content, your general pipeline and feed, something that you might see off Facebook or Twitter. But the real flagship of the platform are the user-generated communities. And these are very similar to what you might see out of Reddit, but a more advanced version. And in addition to that, the way that content is actually tagged and how many tags you get for a piece of content. Using these two aspects, we actually allow users to really pick what communities and what discussion groups and what feeds they actually want to be a part of. And also in the future, they better know what to tag content under in order to get it out to more like-minded individuals. When it comes to very broad subjects like news or technology or what have you, there are many subdivisions that are birthed throughout that and that fork out and get more and more defined as you kind of look a little bit closer. And that's one aspect our forum and our community takes on. We have an area that congregates obviously big subjects, so there can be multiple technology forums or communities, but there can also be the really specific ones. So a specific language, whether it be Java or C++, or a specific type of technology, whether it be machine learning or just a different application in general. For example, iOS apps or games. All these could be within that category, and all of these communities could have their own group. So people who are really interested in these subjects and want to be involved at this level can actually moderate these communities. And this happens a lot on many other social networks and what have you, but over time moderators leave, or it's a thankless job, or it's a corrupt job. They simply use their moderating position to make themselves money. We get rid of this by monetizing it and actually right out of the gate making there a value on top of these communities, making verifications for these communities, allowing forums for these communities so they can keep their moderators in check. And so these are some various plays that we put in place to really not marginalize the user. And then just one more thing in addition to not marginalizing the user, it's custom algorithms and it's a different site look. So if you do not want our algorithms or our analysis or what have you, you can simply disable it. You can go to a feed that's completely based on whatever you're trying to filter out. In terms of search, you can search specifically for the content that you want to see, whether you want to see some funny content from the business section, or you can uncheck it and remove all funny content from the business section. So we do pride ourselves in being able to customize as much as your search as possible. At the same time, we don't want to marginalize anybody. So if there is ever an avenue for whatever you're into, whether it's technology or South German harpsichords, if there are people involved and you can make a community around that, we welcome you to come on, and we'll be fair about the whole situation.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, in a digital global age, content, irrespective, of where it is created in all its forms, is increasingly viewed as both the commodity currency and also as a collateral. The advances in information communication and digitization technologies has brought nations this immediate global communication. So something, the content that is created in United States, it could be in all countries within matter of seconds. So this speed and ease of instant global communication has brought everyone a capacity for infinite reproduction of the content in a matter of few minutes or few seconds sometimes. So the result is, if let's say a content is created, it is now very easy to separate the digital creation in all its forms from its creator. Once a content goes viral, people share, and after a few cycles, we don't even know whose content is being shared or who was the creator. So how can blockchain change this, meaning separation of digital content creation from its creator?
Right. So blockchain has many functionalities, and one great functionality is definitely in this ballpark. And that's the fact that we can analyze who developed what and when, who made changes what and when, who spread what and when. And we can actually look back at the blockchain, look back at when people make certain posts or what have you, and make sure there's not a contract in place, a contract that might cause us or some moderators or what have you within the chain of the content to actually send money back to the original creator if they actually have a claim staked on that smart contract. So that's a real quick identifier of how you can actually monetize from a contract like that. In addition to it, there's actually using various forms of cryptography, there's actually ways to protect that content or protect other users from actually being able to access that content. So this sets up various payment models, from subscription services. We might see an uptick in plugins that are on various websites that utilize these services or that utilize these subscriptions. So these are just a few ways that the blockchain can actually work with video.
Yeah, because see, today when someone posts a picture, image, or a video, it goes viral, and millions of people, can see it. And the creator of the work may never receive proper credit or proper financial reward. In most of the social media, you never see, a beautiful, music that has been created, or art that has been created, or someone writes a really beautiful story. No. These are just few examples. People just don't get financial reward for what they have created, and that is a big challenge. So if blockchain machine learning platform is able to fix this problem, that would be wonderful, because we do need more efficient and frictionless use of content where creators are rewarded appropriately. And basically it seems that the way there is the vision of blockchain, artificial intelligence based platform, is that the biggest benefit people say is that we will be able to get rid of the middleman, because a lot of times this content that has been created, it's not that the content at times is not making money, but by the time it reaches the creator, all that money is gone because of the way it is distributed to the middleman. So how are you visioning how the creators will be rewarded for the content that they are creating?
Yeah, so as the middleman kind of in this scenario, our real play is how can we use that middleman leverage to better assist the community and the platform so that users will want to come stay or be loyal. So certain aspects and how we kind of affect this is, let's clean up the network. Let's increase the integrity of the content. This is a very obvious thing that social networks are not doing. How can we better build platforms or better build centralized tools or infrastructures so that we can actually power content creators? Yes, it's one thing to make a video or slap something together. It's a completely different thing to put together some premium content. At the same time, if you look at Hollywood and the demographics of show business in general, it's a very locked down industry. So with a decentralized universe on the forefront and becoming a hot topic in today's society, we're going to see a lot of decentralized production studios or what have you, trying to produce more professional content. We're definitely going to see the decentralization of news and news sources. So it won't be the same News Channel 6 that's owned by the same company across 500 different counties. You'll start seeing new organizations pop up with a competitive model. But at the same time, there's a lot of problems in film production, especially the inflated costs and the inability for consumers to navigate that market. So one great play once we kind of reach a certain peak is to play heavily towards the manufacturing of content in a decentralized manner. So how can we put together the studios? How can we put together the consultants? How can we put together the whole aspect of that tree so people can customize their own networks? And how can we put together our crowd functionality and the ability for us to crowdsource information into the actual development of these projects? So those are kind of two looks at the long term. At the same time, from a user and an analytical point of view, everybody's fighting for eyeballs. At the same time, there's been a very adversarial relationship that's kind of been born in the ad world, at least, and really since early 2000s, and how users respond to internet marketers and the tactics internet marketers use to get people to click on their ads. So how can we buffer that relationship a bit? How can we add artificial intelligence to actually increase the price of the ads and the services that we are providing? And how can we create subscription models and various other tools that creators can use to better upload their content on our platform? And like I said, I forgot to, from the user standpoint, one big thing they're focused on is analytics, being able to analyze the content. Where did it come from? What are people saying about it? How does it apply here? I want the top comment. I want the top analysis on this content. So that's going to be a very competitive market. And in the field of artificial intelligence and the birth of new type of neural networks, we'll be able to service and custom service people with content and comments and analysis that they will be interested in. We hope they stay for.
That would be wonderful. I would love to know what people all across nations are, talking about Risk Roundup. Each episode that we release, what is the feedback? Where people are seeing value? Because right now I do get the comments and likes and all that, but we don't get the good feeling about where overall, what kind of value these Risk Roundup episodes are able to provide to our global viewers and listeners. So it would be nice to have that kind of capability. Now, you talked about that crowdsourcing. So when disputes arise between collaborators, whenever there is a content that is being created by not just one person, but multiple people working simultaneously on that, it could be joint authors or the painters or musicians, or it could be anyone, someone writing a code, any kind of collaboration. So if there are disputes, arising from that, how these, misunderstanding or disputes as to the parties' rights, responsibilities, and rewards, how would the blockchain technology, AI-based platform that you are visioning be effectively able to prevent such disputes?
So in regards to those disputes, that's really not a heavy focus of our platform. There's definitely some ways to idealize an early smart contract or an early agreement on content as it's uploaded to the network and proliferated throughout the network. But in terms of anything contractual that actually deals with the content in and of itself, you'd really have to start legally. Where does it reside? Does this reside out of a studio or a black and white paper contract, or was this first established on the blockchain, and has this gone through any of the legal loopholes or anything like that? So one of the first things would definitely being able to try to establish a general model that works for everybody. And for everything extracurricular, it would really have to be done on a one-on-one basis in that regard, at least. And for big disputes, and for common practices, you can definitely start automating a lot of that task flow. But it's something that's definitely going to come up in the future, especially the future of contracts, because a blockchain contract is so different from the general semantic contracts we're used to. So we're really going to get to see how that weighs in on the future, and hopefully that's not with us. Hopefully some other big Hollywood studios dealing with that problem.
Let's hope that it gets worked out, because that is going to be, there is no way that disputes will not arise. There will always be conflict, there will always be issues. So we would need that kind of process that is effectively in place, so that we can manage that effect without any problem and without going to court all the time. Now, today, any creator's identity is thinly spread across so many different online services or platforms. It could be LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, or any other platform that is out there on the social media, or people could be using blockchain-based platforms. So the identity of any, let's say, if we talk about Risk Roundup, the Risk Roundup identity is going to be spread on all these different kind of platforms. So these platforms are not all in sync with each other. They are walled off and disconnected. So it's very difficult for innovators to access information that could be used to create services that allow fans from across different platforms and from across different, it is technology that is being used, how that they can use these creations in new innovative ways. So how can we build an open ecosystem for creative content based on not only blockchain, but that integrates all these online services, social media services, on all different technology platforms?
Yeah, great question. And it really comes down to the tech stack. So in our instance, we're building a coin on top of the blockchain. We're building certain protocol within the blockchain that as certain situations come up, this is something we would want to put on the chain and verify, or as we get more feedback and consumers and users get back to us about other services and other things add onto the chain, we will. But really, the base part of it is the actual currency. And it's just really important that that stays decentralized, mostly from a user's point of view, and the easeability of being able to transfer at any time and this, that, and the other. In terms of data streams, setting up nodes that might, produce content, all of that's kind of in the future, but it's also part of, a layered stack. You don't want to just use one thing over the other. Blockchain does solve a lot of problems, especially in terms of consensus and getting people to work together and building trust. But it certainly does not solve everything. It's certainly not in an area to where I'd recommend anybody build a platform completely on it, or if they even could. I mean, obviously, we're just starting to get to the point where we're seeing systems produce 40 and 50K TPS. Unfortunately, they'd have to be that had to be much wider to produce kind of like a Facebook or a Reddit on top of. But in terms of how these services will work in the future when they're not working together or people are dedicated to a certain chain, I don't see that working out too well. I feel like there's going to have to be more all-encompassing approach, more open software, open sourcing, and partnerships. People are not going to want to be backed into a corner dedicated to just one thing and not be able to go spread out and find other content. So anybody really backing that solution, that's going to be a loss in my point of view.
Yes, so it seems very true. So what are the current challenges that organizations like yours are facing when they try to develop this platform?
So some of the real big problems are, being an AI heavy platform and having a very limited data set. Like that's a huge one. So as we're starting to develop and plan out ways that we can better collect the data we need and, look for, future technology that we're going to build, it really has to be, planned ahead, and we really have to find ways to force that to be there. Unlike other networks, if you already had users and you already had that user base established, it's a lot easier for you to kind of thumb through the data and start figuring that out. But in terms of working, I guess with blockchain, it's just it's been a real catch up. So it's getting down with the lingo. It's learning all of the changes that have happened. You know, it's getting away from that Bitcoin stage, because when you're really first introduced into blockchain or crypto, it seems like most people come from the Bitcoin point of view. So it's really trying to revisualize that, and sorry, it's really trying to revisualize that, and you know, try to learn everything that smart contracts and this type of technology can do. At the same time, you have to really build a rapport and research the user bases, how they're currently using it now, where other companies are falling with the use of this technology, and how can you counter that. So there's obviously a lot of learning phases. Even the SEC and top legal teams around the world are still in the learning phase for ICOs and actually how to conduct them and what this really means for venture capital. So it seems like, you know, a lot of learning, just everybody's ballpark there.
So it seems you are right. So which are the technology companies that are leading in this effort of redesigning the creative content, or, you know, just the content collaboration system, the kind of work that your organization is doing?
Yeah, so there's everybody kind of has their own approach. Two that I'll talk about in the blockchain space are Steemit, and Steemit's model is very similar to Reddit, and they have a very paid model. You pretty much have to have Steemit to participate. That's very easy right now, and they weave the Steemit throughout their system, and it's exchanged at a price that's mostly speculative, but they plan on adding various aspects, I think, through advertising and what have you. But it's mostly just a text-based version of Reddit. It's good for user-generated articles and content, and they seem to have a lot of people that are really behind that effort. So Steam is actually a really good option if you're looking for a real blockchain option. In addition to that, a good look would be Trive, who their real focus is on fixing fake news specifically. So trying to combine blockchain, consensus, and analytics to build a resolution that will actually specifically fight fake news, and that users can kind of contribute through that regard. And then there's some other platforms on top of it. I think Gab, in terms of, you know, a real Twitter social network style functionality, they made some good strides, but obviously they got caught up in a lot of the, you know, political mess and playing the political game. But you know, that's a very good Twitter style model. And then another model that I like that's, you know, more or less similar to Reddit and their linking and their grabbing of content in that regard is Tagger News, who really uses a very similar tagging system to the one we use. It's the hashtag system, but it's a multi-hashtag system, and I believe Medium also uses this. And I'm still a big fan of the big boys. I still like my Reddits. I still like my Mediums. I still like my YouTubes. I think those are the best as of right now. But obviously, you know, things will change. But those are still the websites I navigate towards the most.
Great. So now, when we try to define and design any global system, proving the scale and peer-to-peer operation is fundamental. And the same goes for, you know, the platform that you are developing. What is the status on blockchain scalability when we are trying to develop such a large-scale system that will be used across nations?
Yeah, great question. So the main thing is you have to be important with what technology you're using. As far as blockchain goes, are you using, you know, Ethereum, for example, and you might be limited to 6 to 7 TPS on a good day? Or are you moving towards more of the big boys like, you know, EOS, who might put you in the 40K to 50K ballpark? What is actually on the chain? What is being verified, and how are you actually using it? And, you know, what does that play into your network? So for our case, and that was a big decider for us, because at the time we were developing and we were trying to figure a lot of this out, we were really limited to Solidity. And because of Solidity and its limited amount of transactions, you know, we were really not going to be able to build anything that could scale. So we had to really limit it down to, okay, how can we do this just from a currency point of view, and how can we move the least important stuff off the chain in order to bring a lot of our times down and actually make this project functional. Now, on the back end, we did get a lot of assistance. Other blockchains popped up with higher TPS, and it really took a lot of slack off of us. So anybody trying to start down this path right now is in a much better space. But the main thing is you have to get a general idea of how it's being used. Why do you even have to use blockchain for that? And do you have to actually build on top of that? And then also just trying to ballpark, what your TPS is going to look like. Are you going to have problems down the road? This should be fairly easy to foreshadow. And then also in the future, it is a problem today, but in a year from now, this might be a very old problem. There may be some form of mathematics or blockchain technology that comes out that completely resolves us of all our woes. So that's also a potentiality.
Great. So is yours or any other blockchain-based system platform, has it been tested in real time?
Yeah, so we've tested our token functionality, and that, like, as far as the blockchain and the transactions that are actually taking place there, that's been tested, but that's very easy to do. So there's many decentralized platforms currently available for that allow for over 100K TPS. An example of that would be, BitShares, for instance. And I think Waves is producing a fairly high amount. But as far as being able to trade the currency, and what will actually take up 90% of the transactions will just be in pure trades that aren't even on our website. As far as that goes, that's a very easy function. As far as being able to go in and edit certain parts of the chain, or whenever a post, hits a certain criteria to where it needs to be moved to the chain to make sure the moderators aren't being corrupt or we're not being corrupt ourselves. When certain instances like that happen, that's going to be a rarity. And we have not actually tested out that functionality. That's a couple of months down the line, but that's actually just super easy to implement.
Were there any implementation obstacles that you faced?
In terms of, so more of the implementation obstacles are in terms of machine learning and neural networks. So in terms of detecting bots and being able to predict our weights, we still do not have enough users to actually go through that. We've actually applied an adversarial approach, which is the use of our own bots or a hidden layer to actually, start doing some of the testing on our network. But we really need more diversity across the whole data set, but especially geographic diversity, and how to avoid things like, virtual private networks, or how to avoid, very sharp screen scraping bots that actually go through the whole, human process as if it was a human. So identifying some of those things will be a problem in the future. Especially some future problems are just going to be dealing with the community and trying to get them on the same plane as us in terms of understanding technology. It is machine learning. It's not the end of the world. It is blockchain, but it's not rocket science. It's just being able to break down some of these more or less difficult subjects and try to make it palatable to the user.
Yes, so very true. Now, there are so many different blockchains that are in operation in parallel. It's not just one blockchain. There are so many different blockchains that are running in parallel. So will it be possible to integrate any content platform or any content that is on one blockchain that can go to other blockchains? And will there be any integration? How would that all different parallel blockchains would work?
Yeah, it depends on what type of integration per se, because depending on what you're talking about, it may already be available. But if we're talking about like certain technologies or certain currency conversions and stuff like that, some of that's already been in place. So for example, there's BTS, BitShares, which kind of does, from a monetary and a crypto point of view, kind of centralizes the value of all the currency so that they can trade under one platform. So that's like an early thing. But in terms of like, content distribution networks and some of the things we see popping up there, it obviously makes more sense to have an AI layer at the top that lets the whole entire chain know what are the best nodes to fill up with certain content, and at what time and at what point in time a piece of content is trending, and it would be a better time to move it to a different node. Obviously, some of those things will come up, and there will be different blockchains that'll have to talk to each other. It's just there's going to be have to be a layer or some kind of protocol in between there that'll have to be worked out. And a lot of people right now in the industry, especially the ones coming up on ICOs, they're already, talking to people, getting partnerships together with certain coins so that they can start integrating some technology in tandem. So that you do see that popping up.
Oh, that is welcoming. I'm glad that that discussions are happening. But what are the technical challenges of applying this blockchain to this content platform and with the integration of AI? What kind of technical challenges you see coming towards you?
So some of the early tech. So I'll for instance, one big technical challenge would be hooking up our blockchain, our monetization system with our artificial intelligence tagging system. So with the use of blockchain and our token currency, we'll be able to reimburse users who help us tag certain data sets and go through certain data sets and be able to assist us. So devising programs for that, actually making it work, and trying to develop something that could scale upwards and in real time. Those are some big technical problems that will come under the way. As far as things that are going on with our network as is, most of it's off the chain. So most of this is like setting up a YouTube or a Medium or a Reddit. These are really old problems that have already been hammered out. So that's really easy. And where we're tying in blockchain early on, it's really at a few distinct areas. And for instance, we use a different currency layer on our actual platform that's off-chain, because there's going to be so many transactions, and none of those have to be verified because they all go through our platform. So we don't actually have to weave the blockchain there. We do have to weave it when people are exporting currency out, and we do have to weave it in certain aspects for verification. But in terms of issues on that front, really not many.
Great. So now, for the benefit of our global viewers and listeners who are not familiar with your organization, how would you define and describe your organization, DeepSee, and what would you tell them that what problem you are trying to solve using this organization?
Great. Yeah. So DeepSee it's an all-in-one content and social distribution platform. Essentially, we combine the most important formats under an umbrella that really makes for the most palatable, most customizable content viewing experience one can ever ask for. And we do this by breaking it up into real four main parts. The first one being the multimedia aspect of the platform. So think YouTube, very similar to YouTube, uploading and hosting contents, being able to search for video content, etc., being able to set up networks and monetize that content, etc. Then we have a press that's very similar to Medium or articles or blogs or what have you, for content creators in that ballpark, or for people who want to discover that type of content. They have that section of the website, very similar to the multimedia section. And then on top of that, we build the community section and the pipeline section. So the pipeline section operates like most social networks, most social feeds. It's a feed. It's very customizable. It has different posting options, so very much like a Twitter or a Facebook, in addition to tagging options for spreading content. But the real flagship of the platform is our community section. And this is an advanced section, very kind of similar to Reddit, where we have user-generated communities. So users can generate a technology community, they can generate a Breaking Bad community or a machine learning community, what have you. And from that point, they can invite and build users around this community in a feed that's very similar to Reddit, with strong comment structures, analytics, strong symbols throughout the platform, so you can get a sense of, is this an anonymous poster? Is this a verified poster? Are they verified under a certain profession that's relevant to this post, and what have you? And then on top of that, we go a little further with our overall umbrella feature, which is the umbrella for verification. So we go through very different verification models to verify, whether an account is anonymous or whether, kind of like how you see on Twitter where you'll see the blue little check mark. We have the same type of feature, except we'll go into actual professions. You can actually get verified for a specific community, what have you. And then on top of that, we have the ad and services platform. And this is where we tie in our blockchain token currency. And basically, we weave blockchain, artificial intelligence, and the breadth of our platform to provide services and advertisements. So obviously, we use analytics to derive who we should serve certain ads to. At the same time, we offer different services and subscription models. Because there will be so many content creators, because there will be so many types of content, we want to allow them to really customize the way in which they sell that content and the way in which people can subscribe to their content. And we hook all that up into one platform, which is DeepSee. So that's kind of a quick look.
Great. So now, where do you see a need for more effort as you go forward?
A need for more effort?
Mhm.
In On our part, I'm sorry.
On your organization part, as well as the other creators who are trying to develop such platforms, or regulatory, non-regulatory, any kind of where you see more effort, so that the efforts that you are putting in at DeepSee to be relevant for blockchain machine learning powered content platform, that it becomes a reality, and that it goes where you are visioning it to go.
Yeah, so a lot of the effort is definitely going to be on the early stage and the early growth. So actually going out and communicating with content creators and getting them to actually post on our platform in the first place, and then using those content creators as leverage to really test the waters with other users and how they experience our platform. Luckily for us, it's a great time in social media, a great time for disruption, and there's a lot of people who are kind of stirring about some of the problems that have come out of YouTube, Reddit, and some of the big players. So now is a perfect time to use those social networks, apply more time into those social networks, and try to get people to really see the first peak of the platform. Definitely in our future, putting a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of effort. It's a very big problem, and that's bringing together content creators with everybody who's a part of the chain. So this is the people who run the cameras, who produce the studios, who actually get the stuff to go live. How can we actually increase the production quality? How can more everyday normal people make premium content? This is something we know is going to be important, and we know is going to be something to invest in, but this will be a big effort in the future.
Great. Now, you know that there are so many different silo efforts that are going in parallel across nations, trying to develop the similar kind of platform that you are trying to develop. So how will your organization, DeepSee, compete with all these numerous silo efforts that are going in parallel across nations?
So one of our main, one of the main ways we'll be able to compete is we do have a heavy growth team. So in place of this growth team, we know these networks back to front. We were the growth hackers on these networks. This is how we really devised a lot of the ideas. So we know great areas to really post this content and to get people live. But in terms of actually converting people, once they come onto the platform, it's understanding the little intricacies. It's understanding how people actually want to view content and what what kind of spectrum of people is birthed out of a new age of content. Our approach was going all the way back to Marshall McLuhan, in the birth of media ecology, and trying to get the baseline understanding of, well, what does technology do? What are some basic patterns that come out of it? How does it change the user, and how does it change the environment? So we're at a sharp time in technology where everything's changing. The environment's changing through blockchain, people, transfer speeds, machine learning, and it's a hot time to develop a startup and trying to really get in there. But anybody who's really trying to come on and challenge the giants that we see today, we really believe they're going to need an all-encompassing effort, because as machine learning gets to be a hotter and hotter subject, you can do more with it and do more with the data you collect. However, very few organizations have that data and actually know how to utilize it. So you really have to combine as many trees as you can to develop the best platform you can. And I think we've looked at it, the scenario from, the biggest problems to the smallest problems, and try to figure out, okay, what type of platform can we build that can really encompass the whole thing. And while we see a lot of competitors, a lot of different solutions, we really do not see an all-in-one approach, especially an all-in-one approach that takes into account Reddit style and functionality for browsing and aggregating and commenting on content.
Great. Now, what would you like to convey to our global viewers and listeners, especially those young minds all across nations who are trying to, identify the problems not only within their nations but also across nations and come up with sensible technology solutions like you all are trying to develop here? So, what would you like to tell them? What would you like them to work on, or what would you like them to focus on?
I would definitely say do what you like to do first off, but if I had to say any specifics, now's a great time to learn about blockchain, ICOs, and learn about all the different ways other than cryptocurrency specifically that you can use blockchain. So many businesses are switching to this, that they're running in Scramble. Anybody who's in consulting or advising in this industry, they're absolutely packed with action. Everybody's trying to get in on it, and it's got a very relatively low learning curve right now since everybody's so new. So blockchain, learning about just different applications, anything away from cryptocurrency would be spectacular. In the future, anybody who's got a machine learning background, being able to play with some of, and machine learning is not crazy. We definitely need less mathematical minds in the area. So, and there will be new types that come up. So, anybody who's willing to go out and watch Fifi Lee's video over computer vision, and anybody who that video resonates with and they can already understand some quick applications to apply that to, then maybe that's something, you should definitely research. But just in terms of two recommendations, machine learning and blockchain are two huge ones. And then the third one is that businesses are changing throughout the future. We're going to see much less of the Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates dichotomy, very centralized control, what have you. So there's going to be a lot of companies that realize the right move is to leverage what the people really want in a time where people are really open to change and everything's changing anyway, so they have really no choice. So being able to leverage as many friends as possible and do your best to go the extra mile for the consumer, that'll pay off a ton in this upcoming age.
Great, wonderful. So thank you so much, Travis, for participating in Risk Roundup today, and we appreciate your thoughtful insight on blockchain machine learning powered content platform. And our global viewers and listeners would benefit tremendously from the information you provided today. And even if a single individual or entity can come up with an idea to innovate the content platforms and bring the much needed transformation to communication and collaboration at all levels, local, national, regional, and global, this Risk Roundup dialogue has been of service, and we thank you for that.
Hey, Sheree, I appreciate you for having me. You've been a great host. It's been a blast, and I just really appreciate it. Everybody who's listening, thank you. Have a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So blockchain and machine learning technology continues to redefine how nation, its government, industries, organizations, and academia need to operate in a digital global age. While the potential of blockchain and machine learning technology is immense, we need to identify, evaluate, and manage the complex challenges coming with redefining and redesigning of the system at all levels. Risk groups, cybersecurity, geosecurity, and space security risk research centers are created for this very reason, to identify, evaluate, and manage the risk facing NGIOA and CGS, that means nations, its government, industries, organizations, and academia in cyberspace, geospace, and space. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace, they walk together hand in hand. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to the management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. It is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts feed into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secure for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security, so if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage the existing and emerging risks together. For more information on the Risk Roundups, to watch the Risk Roundup videos or hear the Risk Roundup podcast, please go to riskgroupllc.com and do not forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, I'm Jayashree Pandya, host of Risk Roundup, signing off. See you next time. Thank you.